Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this H&V News webinar session on light commercial decarbonisation, brought to you by our friends at Panasonic and Air to Heat. As we know, as the UK is accelerating its efforts to meet net zero targets by 2050, the spotlight's increasingly turning from residential to light commercial buildings, such as multi-dwelling apartment blocks, offices, and mixed-use spaces, buildings that face a different set of challenges, particularly in response to the evolving government legislation to reduce our carbon emissions and meet these targets. In addition, these buildings often face issues of inconsistent temperature control, rising energy costs, and poor indoor and environmental quality. Outdated HVAC systems can also exacerbate these issues, with modern energy-efficient solutions mitigating these challenges, enhancing comfort, and offering a sustainable and lower-cost solution. So, thank you for Panasonic for joining us for this exclusive webinar exploring the next generation of their HVAC technologies designed specifically for light commercial applications. This session will explore innovative technologies and strategies designed to be more sustainable, enhance our energy efficiency, improve indoor air quality, and reduce operational costs. We encourage you to get involved by submitting your questions in the Q&A box, and our friends at Panasonic behind the scenes will share resources as we discuss them in the chat box. We'll spend an hour discussing with our speakers, who I'll hand you over to shortly, and then we'll have half an hour for Q&A. So do feel free to get involved. And if we don't get around to answering your question, let us know your email and we can get in touch with you later. So with that, I'll hand you over to our very capable speakers and pull up their slides. Thanks all.
Hiya, so I'll kick off. So, hi everyone, I'm Nathan Trent. I'm a key account manager here at Panasonic. So my role here is really looking after our new construction sector. James, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's James. Obviously, I've been with Panasonic now for 4 years. I'm the UK sales team leader here, supporting the team on the road, speaking with installers, supporting installers, training our key partners, merchant distribution partners. So yeah, thanks ever so much for having me on and looking forward to the presentation.
Thanks all. Just pulling up your slides now.
Just watch getting them. Paul, do you want to do a quick introduction?
Morning guys, morning everyone. Thanks for having me. My name's Paul, my company is Air to Heat. I'm a service partner for Panasonic. Predominantly we do air source heat pumps and heating and cooling solutions. Air conditioning also. Today we're hoping to get involved in the discussion for decarbonising of light commercial buildings across the United Kingdom. So thanks for having me.
Amazing. So yeah, so I'm going to kick us off. So we are going to go through a few different things in the presentation, but from kind of my side of it, I do want to introduce the sector a little bit, but also about Panasonic in general, because I always say this when I do my training sessions, when I'm in my sales meetings, is I can guarantee that everyone knows the Panasonic name, but people might not be aware we've actually been in the heating and cooling solutions now for over 65 years. So Panasonic is a company, of course, we was founded in 1918, but we actually launched our first heating and cooling solution in 1958. And when we've done that, we were really focusing on your residential air conditioning units. It's kind of the ones, how I always describe it for people that aren't too fully aware of the older units. If you were watching let's say, a film in New York and you've got your air conditioning in the window, most commonly called window rattlers, people knew them from. That's our first solution to bring to market. But we actually started progressing quite quickly from that point. So when we looked at 1971, we started producing our absorbent chillers. 73, we started making our first air-to-water heat pump to market. So of course, most common technology we are starting to see going in new builds, retrofits, and of course, light and full commercial buildings from that side of it. That's when we really started having a focus in that kind of, in that sector. Really moving on, we had quite a few different progression in a few different sectors. We launched the first instrumentation-free pipe heating and cooling VRF system. From that kind of side of it, we've got your CO2s systems coming out to market. Another big one for us in 2010, we launched what we called the HVACR brand of air source heat pumps. So that's our kind of brand name for our models moving forward. But in actual fact, that's when you've seen us having I would say, a bigger focus in the European market. As Europe started switching over to the more renewable technologies a little bit earlier than we have in the UK. That's when Panasonic really started having a bigger focus. In 2012, we started once again looking at these VRF systems in Europe. Same again for CO2 for the refrigeration. We launched our first unit over then. But another key one for us on here is in 2018. In 2018, we realised, well, not that we realised, but we noticed our upsell in heat pumps in Europe started growing quite considerably, really from that 2010 launch. So what we realised was, of course, and we've all got these net zero targets we need to hit. And a big one for us was, at this point, was manufacturing Europe, really all over the world. So we realised we had to start doing them a bit closer to home. So in 2018, we actually repurposed one of our factories from Czech Republic in Pilsner. That factory used to produce the majority of Panasonic TVs, the most common product we're known for. And Panasonic actually kicked them out to put our air-to-water heat pump ranges in there. So it just shows the faith Panasonic has in the brand of this renewable technology and really the investment that's needed. And that one factory alone, moving over to 2025, that factory can produce over 1.5 million units per year, as well as capability of being able to progress that even further. And starting September this year, that's now actually also fully renewably energy powered, which is a good, well, great step from us. If we can go on to the next one, which does kind of lead me on to this, because it's something that everyone is, of course, taking note of. It's our net zero contribution. So Panasonic as a company, we are committed to reducing 300 million tonnes of CO2 emissions by 2050. That's not just from ourselves. Of course, I think we produce 100 million tonnes, but that's, we want to offset not only ours, but future emissions going forward too. But to put that in perspective, Panasonic is aiming to reduce 1% of total global emissions just from our efforts from our product ranges, from our manufacturing, and actually also providing solutions really moving forward. How are we going to do that? Quite a few different ways. There's a key one, like I've already half mentioned. We've taken our factories fully off grid. I think right now we've got over 30 factories, which is powered by a big solar farm, which is either on the roof or very close to the factory itself. The factory produces hydrogen, which gets stored in hydrogen tanks, and we've got hydrogen fuel cells to help back us up. So if there's not enough solar gains, we can switch the hydrogen on, so on or so forth. So what I always find kind of interesting about Panasonic is what we're trying to achieve here, we've actually already done internally. So that's why it's always good to share our really success stories, which is why we're here today. So yeah, moving on to the drive to, well, reduce the carbon reduction. Why are we doing this? Well, the UK as a whole, we've committed to be net zero by 2050. It's quite a big target to reach. Since, well, from our side of it, we are hoping to achieve that a bit sooner, 2032, which is our heat and cooling solution side of it. But it's a big target for people that haven't really started looking into it. Might be a bit scary, but that's why we're here to help. Especially when we do take a look at the actual building stock. The building stock do account for 30% of the national emissions. That's a big target we need to be looking at. Well, it's a big market we need to be looking at. Of course, the government policies are increasingly targeting heating decarbonisation, so they want to move away from fossil fuels and over to renewable energy, such as an air source heat pump. And of course, the buildings, especially the older commercial stock, are key to meeting that net zero target. There's quite a few buildings out there which are just using the old commercial gas boilers, which are pumping all them emissions out. And of course, once we do decarbonise that heating and improving efficiency, that's why it is such a major focus for us. Next slide. So what kind of legislations and policy drivers are in place for us in the UK? So I've already mentioned one. We do have the UK Net Zero strategy, which was of course announced in 2021, where we do outline the path to be fully net zero by 2050. But when we move on now, we've got the minimum energy efficiency standards. So now we're looking at EPC ratings. So EPC ratings, especially when we start looking at rental and more commercial, currently we're looking at a C, but by 2030, the minimum requirement is going to be a B on that. So we need to make sure we're getting this housing stock or building stock to that grade. And a nice easy way of doing it is by looking at that heating and cooling solutions that we are installing. The heating and building strategy focuses on transition to low carbon heating, including heat pumps. There's also something that half goes alongside that, which is the Decarbonisation Fund, which you will also be able to take a look into, where we can start getting additional funding to be able to start putting solutions like this in place. When we do look at kind of new build side of it, I see this quite prevalent in a new build property. We do have the new Part L regulations, which once again, we're tightening standards, especially future home standards coming forward, where we do see fossil fuels starting to disappear and more of your renewable energy coming in, be it an air source heat pump, a ground source heat pump, direct electric, all these kinds of solutions. That's where we see that moving forward. And another interesting one is the Energy Savings Opportunity Scheme. So for every large organisation from this point, it does mandate that they do need to get an energy audit coming in. Once the energy audit's coming in, the next step, of course, how are we going to action on that side of it? So just looking at these 5 points here, we can really see where the UK market, the UK policies that are coming in are pushing us to that renewable solution. Next slide. Especially when we do look at what we've got in the marketplace right now. If we look at, especially, if you look at your smaller commercial buildings, office blocks, village halls, for example, a lot of them are using outdated heating sources. A lot of them are the commercial gas boilers. Yes, they have been serviced, but they are still quite heavily pollutant the environment from that side of it. Another one's electrical storage heaters, which even though electrical storage heaters is a step in the right direction, when we do start looking at running costs, that's when we can start ramping up quite high if we're just relying on direct electric alone. The other one is inconsistent temperatures. I think we've all experienced this. We're either going to meetings in 2 different office blocks or vice versa. You walk in and you're either way too hot or way too cold. There's a firm that tends to be in one set area that's controlling that whole block. Is that accurate? Not really. Is that somewhere else we can start looking into it to see how we can start making that a better experience for everyone in these properties? And of course, poor indoor quality, we've seen it quite well regularly everywhere. We've got Arab's Law coming in for the new build, your social, your renting blocks, which has now fully gone live. But that's down to the poor indoor air quality. It's normally damp in these buildings. That's something we need to be taking a look at and seeing how we can actually find a solution. And that last one is that lack of integration, which is another key one. Normally these units are just thrown in and nothing's speaking to each other. That truly is the next step, to get all this technology sitting there speaking. So the heat pumps are speaking to the hot water stores, which might be speaking if you got your VRF systems, your air conditioning systems, you know, from that point. Let's have everything speaking, working together. So that's what it should be doing. And that's where we start putting the heat pump solution in place. That's where we can start really providing that solution. Because heat pumps are the key enabler for the low carbon heating and direct hot water. It seems to be the preferred installation method for it. When we start looking at installations that we've already got, especially with buildings that might be nervous switching straight over to fully renewable, these systems can work with a hybrid system, so we can put them in alongside that boiler just to keep going. So if we do just need a little top up, let's slowly start transitioning over. We don't need to fully do it in one go. Let's reduce the cost and let's slowly start doing it that way. It's also an option that we can start looking at. Of course, we do have that government target where they are dropping 600,000 heat pumps by 2028. And that's supported by a few different incentives. The first one being the boiler upgrade scheme. Boiler upgrade scheme is quite common in the retrofit market. You want a boiler in your house, not boiler, you want an air source heat pump in your house. Through the boiler upgrade scheme, we can actually get £7,500 contributed towards that installation, because we need to be looking at changing your windows, your doors, the fabric of the building, as well as the heat pump and the cylinder itself. But not many people actually know the bus scheme actually does come under commercial. We can use the boiler upgrade scheme on light commercial up into a 40-45 kilogram on a heat pump. If we are looking at a district loop network, so we are looking at, let's say, a small apartment block, we can still use that boiler upgrade scheme up to 300 kilowatts of supply. Something that's not commonly known in the industry. It's a bit that's, let's say, especially on the light commercial side, it's not really been spoken about too much. So we do have a few incentives there. One I spoke about already, we've got that public sector decarbonisation scheme. So if we do have a big project going on, we can actually apply for additional funding if we can prove the technologies we're putting in is going to help that environment out. And that really is our idea of a light commercial building, such as retail, offices, schools, hospitals, healthcare, you name it, from that point. So there's a lot we can really be looking at, but also we do have a few things that could help us out along the way too. Next slide. And when we do start looking at our solutions, we are going to focus really on one today, but I wanted to show you two. We've got what we call the EcoRIW, the EcoRG Blue. So this is what we call our hydronic units in the industry, most commonly called as chillers. And this we can start having units from 50, 60, 70, 80 kilowatts up and start cascading there. But what's interesting is technology is moving, and technology is moving at a fast pace, especially in the sector that we are in right now. So Panasonic launched the Aquaria M series last year. And I am going to let James go fully through this one in a little bit. I don't want to take the thunder from James from there. But that's using new technology where we can have a smaller unit outside to produce the same kilowatt as we might have done with one of these smaller hydronic units. Also at a more affordable rate too. So we've got a few we can start looking at. Additional to that, we've got a few things we can start adding on. If we do just flick over to the next slide. We also have a few different ranges of smart fan coils. So the good thing when we do start looking at fan coils is, yes, on a heat pump, if we can, we want to start running at a lower flow temperature. And this is where fan coils come into their own. For example, I could have a 35-degree flow going around one of the fan coils you can see on the screen right now. And that will provide an output equivalent to a 65-degree flow in a standard radiator. And by that, what I mean is when we're starting looking at footprint of how much that, for that floor standing model, if I compare that to a radiator, the floor standing should be slightly smaller. One thing we get in the industry right now is radiators are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Natural fact, using new solutions, we can keep that size downwards. But the other benefit we do have with the smart fan coil is they can also provide comfort cooling. So when the units do go into reverse cycle, especially during the summer months, that same unit can start putting comfort cooling in. There's also dehumidifications built into all these different bits. And there's a few different installation methods. We can go for your standard floor standard, you wall mounted, which looks very similar to an air conditioning unit. It's the easiest way of describing it. Or we also have ducted versions where we can install them into a roof space and ducted into each room that requires that heating or cooling output from that side of it. But that's really it from me. What I'm going to do, I am going to pass you over to James, who's going to start walking through the M-series in a bit more detail and really why it's a solution to take a look at the next time you're looking at a lot of commercial projects.
Yeah, thank you, Nathan. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so as Nathan touched on, Panasonic's been involved in the heating and cooling industry for a long time now, but one of the latest products which we're going to go through today is the M-series. And what I want to highlight is the benefits of the M-series and why it's so key in this light commercial industry that we're going to be touching on. It's kind of specific, well, it is designed specifically for light commercial applications. The reason for that is when we're looking at the big M, as we call it, it covers 20, 25 and 30 kilowatts, which is a bit of a niche in the market. When Nathan touched on the chillers or hydronics, however you want to name it, comparing that to the domestic world where you're going up to around 16, 17 kilowatts, this covers the middle ground. So you're looking at larger properties potentially in the retrofit market with high heat losses, or you're looking at light commercial. But the benefits of this, when you're looking at high heat losses and light commercial, the importance of it still provides a high seasonal efficiency. So what's known in the industry as SCOP or SCOP. Basically, COP looks at coefficient of performance. If you're comparing that to a boiler, for example, for every kilowatt you put in, you're probably getting 0.9, 0.85 out of a boiler. So you're losing 10-15% of energy CO2 emissions out the flue. SCOP looks at it over a seasonal period, basically over a year, comparing it in different in months and seasons. So what that's doing is, if you're looking at a heat pump, you can potentially get 2, 3, 4, even 5 times more worth of efficiency out of a heat pump, which is really key as we're looking to hit those targets of 2030 and 2050. And again, wide operating range for year-round performance, which allows to help achieve those SCOPs. It's got compact footprint. Obviously, when we're looking at these going outside rather than inside on a boiler, we've got to consider that. So it's ideal for retrofit or new build, but also light commercial as well. And one thing I want to touch on as well, these units can be cascaded up to 10 times. So you're looking at potentially 300 kilowatts. So depending on the property you got, we believe it can cover pretty much everything that the application desires. It's also got smart control. and connectivity for integration. So it's smart grid ready. If you're wanting to pair this up with solar, it can. It's got smart control monitoring, which is a massive, massive USP of Panasonic. Basically, what the smart control allows you to do is monitor that heat pump remotely, but not only monitor it, affect it as well. So the controller that it's set up by, it's basically putting that on your laptop, whether that's at home, in your offices, however, and it gives you access to that system. If there's ever a fault or a situation that needs to be looked at, it will signal the installer, whoever's taking care of that system. And then you can literally go in and change the settings. You can affect what the situation might be on that heat pump. It could be something simple as someone's pressed the wrong button. They've left the office, they pressed the wrong button, and it's not set up how it needs to be. But that sort of smart controlled connectivity is very, very key when we're going into this new world, which isn't very new, as we mentioned in Panasonic, but it's what we're discussing about now. To give you that visual, but also that access remotely is very, very key. And then again, as Nathan's touched on, smart fan coils offering both heating and comfort cooling. As we're looking to get to these regulations of insulating our homes better with new windows, insulation in the walls, roofs, floor, what we've got to consider is cooling as well, because we're going down that road of potentially overheating in the new build sector, and then as we're upgrading on the retrofit side as well. So it's a really, really a key part. And then especially if you're working in these commercial buildings or you're living in these sort of properties, it's about comfort as well. So cooling's a really, really big part. Next slide, please, Ella. Seems to
Hi all, sorry, my slides have appeared to have frozen. Let me just I'll reshare now. There we go.
Give me a chance for Reva. It's all right, Ella.
There we go. Sorry all. There we go. I'll just share with you now. There we go. My apologies. There we go.
No problem at all. So yeah, just looking into some further key features of the big M series, because it offers a flexible, compact and energy efficient solution, which we spoke about, for central heating and domestic hot water as well. So heat pumps can do both. They prioritize the hot water, but they can do both, which is very, very key when you're looking at design and application for your properties. As I mentioned before, you can cascade these units up to 10 times. So you're potentially getting up to 300 kilowatts if needed for that property or that application. We've mentioned compact solution with a small footprint, again, which is very, very key. They're going outside your properties, they're going outside your commercial buildings. So space might be an issue, but with the compact solution of the M series, that's been taken into account and it can be used in those applications. It's capable of keeping a capacity at 55 degrees for your water outlet down to -15, which is very, very key. It's got quiet operation. It's got Panasonic inverter compressor, so it's made by Panasonic as well, which is very, very key. And domestic hot water at 65 degrees with the compressor only. So those they're key factors. But what else it's got as well? It's got what's known as TCAP technology, which stands for total capacity. So as you may be aware or may not be aware, some heat pumps, as it gets colder outside, the kilowatt output that it says on the tin might reduce as it's working harder. It's like a bike or a car going uphill. But with the TCAP technology, it keeps that kilowatt output all the way down to -15, as it says there. So if you've got a 20 kilowatt unit, you're getting 20 kilowatts out of it. So it does what it says on the tin, which is very, very key when you're at design stage and you're considering different climates in the UK, which we get pretty much daily. So it's very, very key. It's easy replacement for other heating sources as well. We mentioned boilers, but with the higher temperatures that it can achieve, it can be almost like a light replacement. What's key with that though, obviously, as we're going down this saving CO2 emissions and efficiency route, We want to try and achieve the lowest flow temperature as possible for the best performance, as Nathan said in his fan coil slide there. It's got flexible control options, so it comes with a remote control or the control module, which allows the wiring to go inside the property or the commercial building. Seamless Modbus integration. Sorry, get my words mundled up there. So what that means is when we mention smart connectivity, we mentioned smart grid ready. When you're connecting to solar, etc., when you're cascading these up, basically the Modbus allows everything to talk together, so it can communicate and get the best solution for you. And it's designed to blend in with architectural as well, with the new modern graphite looking, which everyone seems to be pushing for at the minute, to match your windows, I believe. That's what my missus says anyway when she says that. But I think this visual is very, very good. Rather than speaking about it, it gives you a visualization on what sort of applications the M series can go into. So on the left hand side there, you've got apartment blocks, for example, community heating. So if you wanted to do one district heating to serve multiple apartments, you can. If you wanted to do that on a floor by floor basis, depending on the demand that you need, you can cascade them. Or if you want to do individual apartments, depending how big they are or what's required or how small they are, or the domestic heat, hot water demand, you can do that as well. So speaking about the range that we've been doing for years at Panasonic, every application there's a solution for it. And on the right hand side, that goes into the commercial side as well, such as retail, healthcare facilities, commercial offices, etc., on there as well. Next slide, please. Again, this is just highlighting the key aspects on there as well. So we've mentioned the capacities of the big M, 20, 25 and 30, and then the TCAP symbol there standing for total capacity. You can have this in multiple scenarios really, standalone or remote control module. So as you can see just from there, on the left hand side you've got a remote control, but if you're wanting to do more solutions or you're wanting to bring your wiring inside the property to make it easier for your electrician and your installers, you can do that as well. On the right hand side, the control module allows for the Modbuses, the integration, the more options depending on what your application needs. But again, like I said, it depends on what the application needs. So we've got a solution for all on that sort of side of things. Again, it's R290 as well, which we haven't mentioned. So R290 is a refrigerant. That's got a global warming potential of only 3, which is one of the lowest on the market, I believe. So basically global warming potential, if that refrigerant was to leak into the atmosphere, how much damage would it do? And that's as low as 3 compared to R32 and R410A as well. We've mentioned cascade and quiet operation, which is really, really key. If the big discussion in heat pumps itself is the noise, they're not noisy. I simplify it without, I'm not a technical person, but how I simplify it, it's a fridge in reverse. You don't hear your fridge on at home. It's as low as that. It's really, really low decibels, so you can't hear these systems working. Next slide, please, Ella. Further integration, so if you're wanting to cascade these units, so multiple units at the same time, which could be cost saving as well, which is really, really good, space saving and CO2 saving again versus multiple gas boilers. Just to put in perspective, we had a project recently where we went to site and there was multiple 60 kilowatt boilers in there and one of them wasn't even being used. So you can imagine when we're looking at sizing, when we're looking at design, there's a 60 kilowatt boiler sat there not even being used. So we're talking about efficiency. So design, which we'll touch on later in the conversation, is really, really key to these elements to get the right efficiency out of it. But some key parts there, P-Smart Edge, P-Smart Nexus. So different cascade controllers, different cascade smart controllers that you can use depending on what your application desires. So whether you're wanting to run domestic hot water at a certain time, when you're wanting to balance the system, so you want to use one unit versus and then another unit versus they're all coming on at once. So managing the load of these units, we've got seamless Modbus integration, which again we've touched on, and designed to blend for architecture and environment. So really, really good key points as well on that. Just to touch on that, if there's any more interest for installers or architects, that sort of thing, we've got what's called a Panasonic Pro Club. It's free to join. It's a simple case of username and password On there, it's a central hub, like I said, for installers, architects, etc. You can get heat loss calculators on there. You can get hydraulic scheme generators on there. You can get installation manuals. Sorry, I forgot my train of thought there. Installation manuals dating all the way back to all our series from previous, if you've got older generations fitted on multiple apartments. So just a note there, I think that's really, really worth joining if you're wanting more information on our systems. And then again there, another great visual of the type of applications that we can use. So if you're looking at this one, you can integrate the TCAP control module. You've got a domestic hot water cylinder as well, buffer tank if required, fan coil radiators, air curtain with water coil, cascade manager, you name it, it's all on there, but it can be applied. And the key thing is, when we spoke about Panasonic, the flexibility of the application that you're wanting to do, how simple, how complicated you think it might be. We've got a great design team, we've got a great spec team, we've got a great team within Panasonic to support you on those sort of applications as well. And then just the final slide from me, wanted to touch on the market itself. So if you think about single family houses, it's already a mass market, it's already a big talking point, it's already out there, we're making great strides. Increasing in some countries due to subsidies, but the current lineup is main products. So we're looking there at smaller potential ones. In Nathan's case, on new build, because the heat losses aren't as high, we're looking at 5-7 kilowatts, if that. Again, if you compare that to what you might have at home, a 24-30 kilowatt boiler, it's quite sufficient. It's key to remember on that heat pumps are designed to replace the heat that's lost in the property rather than heat you versus a boiler. But then when we're talking about multi-family houses, apartments, etc., for landlords maybe, or commercial properties, it's still a small section of the market. But what Panasonic's involved in is 26% residential and 13% commercial on there. But with this current lineup as well, we've already seen, which Paul will touch on in projects he's been involved with, and some case studies out there, the increase in demand and the interest in this product because it's suiting those key niche markets to help with the goals and targets of 2030 and 2050 and reduce global emissions. That's it from me, Ella. Thank you.
Hi guys, next slide please, Ella. Thank you. Cheers, James. So this is an interesting one because it's the retrofit project and it was at the National Wool Museum. And it's in mid-Wales, and the Welsh government have really impressed me because he seems to be leading the way and setting the example for everybody. I know Scotland and England are pushing ahead also, but Wales, they seem to be doing exceptionally well. But this project, it was 4 30-kilowatt units, and they were all hooked up with Modbus. And the aim of this project was to replace all the gas appliances at the National Wool Museum. Now, this was done by a local installer, F.E. Hurley's, and my part on this was to support with the commissioning and just to make sure it was, sort of installed to manufacturer's instructions, which it was. And this system, we have actually done a return, planned maintenance visit just to see how it's been going. And the COP was fantastic. One of the things that I tend to do when I do a return visit is go straight to the controller and go straight into energy monitoring and check the energy efficiency and the COP. And that was quite impressive considering it had only been running for a short period of time. This one was a heating only solution. So it was designed basically just to heat all of the Wool Museum. The thing with the TCAP, and James pointed it out before, because it's R290, it's getting to those higher flow temperatures. But like a boiler would typically put a flow into the radiators of, say, 60-65 degrees. The TCAP can surpass that. It's R290. So for the first time ever, we've got TCAP units that are R290 driven and can deliver big on those flow temperatures. So by comparison, they can equate or they can surpass a typical boiler's flow temperature, and they can do it using less energy. So when you look at the COP, as James mentioned earlier, we can deliver a system, replace the gas, which this one is a prime example, and still give you a better COP and in a longer term cost savings as well. So for this system, I really like it because it is a prime example of how a multi-unit installation really can deliver big on the efficiency, the cost savings, and also the ease of installation as well. This is pipes in sequence, connected with Modbus, and it has buffers in the plant room. So it's a fantastic install what Hurley's did. But it was great to play a key role in, the sort of initial setup, making sure it was done to schematics and the wiring, etc., and then configured. So it is controlled by a cascade manager, which is now externally controlled by BMS. So this is great for a commercial solution that wants external control also. So I really, really enjoyed participating on this project. Can we go next slide, please, Ella? Again, this was another good project. Again, the Welsh local authorities pushing forward, getting rid of their fossil fuels out of their building. We've got 730 kilowatt units hooked up there in sequence. So we've got 210 kilowatts of A++ rated solution. This one was, again, a heat-only solution for the local authority building. It's a humongous building, and the fossil fuel was decommissioned, and the installation company put this in. And again, I sort of assisted on, making sure it was all sort of configured correctly, wired correctly. We had the correct volumes and flow rates and things like that. So it was really, really good to participate on. Again, it's controlled by BMS and it's controlled externally. So, as James touched on earlier, if, for example, for management, there was, an issue technically, it can be seen, it can be sometimes rebooted and, sort of reinstated, if you like, without even a visit to site. So great. But to see these working in unison, it really is quite something. You'd never have thought that, multi-units could be so efficient. And yet, Panasonic, they've delivered big, and they really have delivered big on this project with 210 kilowatts of, highly efficient heat. So, yeah, really good. Next slide, please, Ella. The interesting thing with the big pit, again, it's a Welsh heritage building project. So, this is, applause for the Welsh government. What they did here, they put 230 kilowatt M series in place, and it was to deliver on their hot water solution. So all the guys, what they need is, they heavily need that hot water. So what they had is a series of buffers inside, and the two, the combination of 60 kilowatts was to heat those buffers to 60 degrees. So we had it on a direct flow, 60 degrees to heat those buffers, and we had constant hot water. And again, I went back on a plant maintenance visit, and I was with one of the actual installers guys. And it was so impressive to see, there's no shortage of hot water. We've got these great big humongous buffers in the plant room. And, you've got these 230 kilowatt big M units purring away outside, just ticking over nicely. So again, the interesting thing on a second visit, we were checking things like the flow rate, making sure the filters were clear. It's a planned visit, so, it's worth doing while we were on site. But we were also looking at the COP, which, it really puts a smile on your face when you do see that COP figure. Again, we always, we always strive to give the best we can. But who'd have ever thought, it's, putting residential to one side, who'd have ever thought you could get such great COP in a commercial application? Fantastic, really is. So on the installation applications themselves, it couldn't be easy with the Panasonic M series units. For simplicity of installation, there's no need for flexi connectors and things. We've got Panasonic have engineered enough inside the unit. So any sort of noise transfer from the compressor operation, it's already addressed inside the unit. So there's no need for things like flexes. The one thing that makes it easy is lever valves off the back of the units and then antifreeze valves. So, and then we can pipe from there on, so that's fine. But again, it's when you're installing in sequence like this, we've got a cascade manager. And then we've got, as James pointed out earlier, the image that you saw with the control module. So we have a control module, and then each individual's controller, and we just set that up at the time of the assist commission or the commissioning stage. And yeah, it really is. There's no real complications. The important thing is getting that design right from the get-go. Now, Panasonic, they have a great design team. And yes, I'm allowed to say that they do. They have a fantastic design team, and they'll work extremely hard to get this right from the word go. So when you first put your interest in that you want to go and switch to the M series, you've really got a great team to create the design. Once you decide to go ahead with that design, the installation, we've got fantastic technical team. So they're always there to, on hand to help with any advice, any technical questions that you may have over the phone. As mentioned, we do an assist visit to do the commission. So that would be a walkthrough, talk through. Make sure before anything's even powered, it's all done exactly as it should be. If there's any, minor changes that need taking place, we can do that with you. And then let's get to the good bit of commissioning the system. And that's the real exciting bit, because then you'll see what these things can really do. And, they really are absolutely fantastic. So for ease of installation, that gets a tick. The important thing is the planning, the pre-planning, pre-sales. But, you've got plenty of backup and plenty of support on hand through Panasonic. And the after sales, of course, we've already, sort of highlighted that follow-up visits, planned maintenance visits, just to make sure the installer's happy and, do those follow-up checks. No problem at all. Really, really great product from Panasonic. We need to see more and more commercial buildings. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
We are going to pick your brain for some more insight over the next few slides as well, so don't go anywhere. But it's good to wrap up, and actually it's good to see some of these installations out in the wild sun. So if we do go over to the next slide, kind of how we've tried to do this next portion of outside the presentation, but of the talk, is we actually kind of want more of a round table. So we've got a few ideas on here. So please, if you've got any questions, comments, do throw them in there. We'll try and pick them up as we go along. But we've kind of got a few that we'll just go for the three of us now, but please do share what you've got. So when we're going to start on this one. So the most challenges we see from the side of it after speaking to installers and people out in the field is always the logistics side of it. So Paul, how do you find that kind of portion of technically the install of the whole process around the logistical side?
We go a little bit OCD when we're planning. We want to make sure that everything's sort of delivered to site. A lot of these projects are rural areas. So when it comes to logistics, it's really important that we just spend a bit of time. If we're supporting a project and we'll work with the installer, and it might not necessarily be our own project, but we'll work closely with the installer and make sure that everything is mapped out, everything is ordered, and we know that everything's delivered. Now, one of our suppliers, I don't think I'm allowed to mention, I've had a close sort of relationship with them for several years, and logistics is on point. And if we're coming direct from the manufacturer, we know that's on point also. So logistics, it all comes down to the initial planning. Get that right, and the project will go right.
Yeah, that's great to hear. So that's what it is. I think that's always what it always comes back, is the collaborating between ourselves. So there's a merchant involved, of course, a merchant, and then of course your side. I know one question I get quite a bit when I'm traveling around is, once the units are delivered to site, just for a bit of benefit for it, really, how do you tend to move the units around? So once they've been delivered, to get them to the plot, do you tend to have and you can get the wheelbarrow versions where you attach the wheels on, do you crane them on, fork them on? How do you tend to get them around site once they're on?
Well, I think what I learned from the Wool Museum, I think the installers there, they had those, they had those sort of pallet trucks. So, you like you say, you've got approximately 240 kilograms on the 30 on the big M. So, you've got to think about how you're going to, get those from A to B as well. So I think the Wool Museum, it was necessary to pallet truck them, or sort of get them in sight that way onto the slab. But I mean, that's that when you start thinking of roof height and things like that as well, you know, where you put them on roof surface, then you've got to start thinking about, you know, cranes, high abs, how are you going to get that unit up onto that, you know, onto that first floor level or on that roof level? How are you going to do it? Ground level, that's fine. Like you say, with the pallet truck, for example. But they are a two-man lift. But on the 30s, ideally, if you were going to do a lift, you'd want to use the straps with a four-man lift, maybe. Definitely, there's a lot of weight there, so it's all about health and safety now. But if you're thinking roof height, when it comes to your logistic planning, you're going to have to think about who's going to, you know, how are you going to get them up there? So you're going to need a telescopic high ab or something like that. So that has to come into the planning also. Again, if you're in a rural area, you know, that really is a big consideration. So it's a valid point. It really is. So how are you going to get it from off the truck onto its installation point? So
I do agree. I know when we were looking at developing the S series, I'm so used to calling it M generation from the older ones. But when we do start comparing, because of the TCAP technology inside of it, when we compare it to the hydronic units, which are a lot bigger, a lot bulkier, and do way a bit more, then we moved up to the M generation, which can do similar outputs to the 50 kilowatt. But when we start taking drop-offs into account, then that's one of the key things, because you are exactly right. We can come on, four-man lift with straps, 30 kilowatt, we can take them over from that side of it. So I know that's also a big consideration we've done when developing the M series of unit. Ella, can we go to the next one, please?
Of course.
It's the same again. I know we've mentioned this a few times already, but how have you been finding the performance of the units when we do start cascading, connecting them together? Have you got positive experience, negative feedback, neutral? It would be good to get a bit of insight.
Using the big pit, if I can use that one as just an example, when I'd gone running for the controller on the cascade on the control module there, I'd gone straight into the system information and hit the energy. And as I say, it puts a smile on your face when you sort of see the COP. We know that we're getting a great COP. So over time period, I think that, you know, the big pit, obviously they're going to start seeing them cost savings really come into play. I think that system now has been purring away nicely for something around, is it 8 months now, maybe? So it really would be interesting just to see what the comparisons were to their gas systems, what they've taken out. On price at the moment, I can't say, but what I can say is what we saw on the COP, which at the time, if I recall correctly, was 3.8. So, you know, that's for a commercial application, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's great to hear. James, do you have any?
Yeah, I think that's, I'm just going to add to Paul really in terms of COPs and SCOPs. I think you've got to look at it over a perspective of at least a year, but just to get 3.8, was it, Paul? I think this is again what we spoke about earlier, boiler, where you're getting 0.9. You can already see the difference there. And that's with multiple units as well. So I think that's really, really good for everyone involved, for everyone who's using that facility. Cost savings, CO2 savings will be big as well. That'll be good to see. So I think from what we're describing here and what we're talking about, you can already see the benefits and the key benefits for achieving those goals and cost savings as well. And then the ease of installation. So from start to finish, I think that's really, really key. So yeah, that's all I wanted to add on that, Nath.
Yeah, that's without saying from my side. The one that I've got is moving on to the nice kind of side of it too. I know when I've been on site showing the units off, and the first question people always ask is, I've heard these units are noisy. In actual fact, we've been standing there doing the training presentations and found if they weren't standing directly in front of the unit, it was over to the side. And they go, so can we turn it on to hear it to hear it run? You go, the unit is on.
It's on.
It's already on.
Yeah. That's another comment that we want to get, because the same again, there's so many miscommunications in the market, but yeah, it's good to get in front of one here and actually get that great feedback back. Yeah, I think that's what I've got on that one.
That's a good point on the sound, Nathan, because inside the menu we've actually got a quiet mode. So as quiet as the units already are in normal operation, you know, there's 3 levels of quiet that the end user can opt for. So if there were multiple buildings close by, you know, if they wanted at any time, say they were night shift, for instance, you know, and they thought, well, we've got a building next door, maybe it's the ambulance centre, who knows, just hypothetically, you know, they could think we could put it down to quiet mode 1, but it has actually got 3 levels of quiet, which brings the dBA down, you know, further so with each setting. So, you know, quiet mode, it's there if the end user wants it. But as you say, quite rightly, they run so quiet. Interestingly, even when they're in, you know, if you use the big pit again as just as an example, because it's hot water, we all know that heat pumps work harder in hot water mode. We've got a set temperature of 60 degrees on that system for those buffers to feed the hot water supply, and that those things you wouldn't know they're on, as you say. It's quite, you know, it puts a smile on your face, really. You know, it really is. It's quiet, but if they want it further still, they can lower it with the quiet mode settings.
Yeah, so you are right on that. It's all the features that we build in, and I think we're also guilty of this as well. Sometimes we do have the features built in, and we go, we forgot about that one, because we do just put them on. Another one that we have
thought about it.
Yeah, I know another one we have is when we start looking at Legionnaire cycle, when we're speaking about the hot water side of it. I think it started coming into from the L generation onwards, or including M generation. We've actually got an option on there, rather than just sterilising the cylinder, you can actually additional pump, so removing the water around the pipework as well. So we can make sure that whole pipework has been fully sterilised, which, same again, it's an important topic in the industry right now, Legionnaire, especially in the Europe side of it. But that's another feature that we have built in, which is, I would say, still pretty unique to Panasonic, but it's one we don't actually speak about too much. So it's always good to hear them features.
And that's really key, isn't it? If you think
and
about
you're doing it without the backup heater. Yeah. I think James is just going to add there, I think, yeah.
Yeah, standing water in hotels, rooms not being, you know, keep that water circulating, and sterilisation wise, it's a really, really key factor. It's lots of little nuances in the unit itself that take care of itself, if you like, as well.
Yeah. Well, it's getting that 65 degrees without the need of an immersion heater or a backup heater because of the R290. You know, it's able to do that within its capabilities and still be efficient. So, you know, it's fantastic, really. So there's so many things that perhaps I could have touched on when we were talking about those particular case studies there, with regards to, you know, water temperatures and things. Legionella, that weekly cycle, you know, on a big property like that, you wouldn't want to be using your immersion heater to get from, say, 50 up to 65. Heat pumps doing it all in, you know, all by itself. So yeah, the capability is great.
So you are exactly right. And I know we spent longer than we should have done on the slide, but same again, the features just keep coming and coming.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, but it's even the same from the TCAP technology. So I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and of course, as we know, when we do size a heat pump, we normally tend to do it around about -3, -4, depending where we are in the country. But sometimes in some installation actually methods, that means we need to upsize the unit to meet the lower requirement. Whereas because of TCAP and how TCAP functions, so we don't have any of the drop-offs, it means we're actually not oversizing the units with that technology there too. And that's the same again, it's just with this product range, there's just so much going on that, it's good to take note of.
So that the TCAP technology is fantastic.
Yeah,
absolutely fantastic.
Ella, I will move on. I know we've got time. So really, I know, Sam, again, I know we've gone through a few of these bits already. So engaging early with clients and consultants. Of course, we know that's a key step. It's not just about selecting a unit and putting it in. We need to make sure all the pipework's selected correctly, the radiators on the floor. We're just doing the hot water kind of side of it. How do you tend to do that yourself, Paul? Do you tend to do a lot of it in-house? Do you have design companies come in? I know we do it from our side of it too, but do you
on occasion, what we'll try to do is we'll always try to do, so if it's our own project, we'll definitely be doing a pre-installation site visit. So we'll do a walkthrough, talk through of the location of the equipment, where the consumer unit is, or the electrical consumer unit. We need to check a few sizes. Have we got enough supply there? Do we need to upgrade to 3-phase? With the big M, you would definitely need to upgrade to 3-phase. So, you know, we'll do, like you say, the cable routes, pipe runs. Have we allowed for condensation waste? You know, have we got the right clearances? Does it fall in with permitted development where we're putting the units? So all of these factors we do on a site visit and make sure that the client is, you know, fully happy where everything's going to go. The expectations of the system as well, we go through in detail. If we're supporting an installer, we'll always try and aim to get to site. We do go quite far afield, as most people know. We go from one end of the mainland to the other, supporting installers. So if an installer's putting in, Panasonic system, we'll try to be there on site to support them, to do a walkthrough, talk through, look at cable diameters, cable sizes, fuse ratings, all those kind of things to make sure it's all MCS compliant and building compliance. So as long as it's all, within those guidances of MCS, the sort of building compliance, obviously the manufacturing instructions, so we can address all that on a pre-installation site visit. So hope that helps.
Yeah, no, to be fair, it really does, because that's the key point. If we get it right at the beginning, it's going to save problems down the longer run where we go, actually, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to start ripping walls apart, all these kind of things. So that's where we need to make sure everyone's involved from the get-go before a pipe's even laid or a pump's even put in.
Yeah.
James, I know you will have a few bits on this one as well, especially on the commissioning and end user training side of it. So yeah, I'll throw it over.
So we mentioned obviously design, etc. Finding and Paul kind of his business supporting installers, which you mentioned, but how we do that, we offer a training program on air to water. It's a day's training, it's a free course, but it also allows you to upgrade your warranty on the system, so it's a benefit to the installer. But the key bit is we'll run through heat losses, we'll run through pipe sizing. Why is this important? Why do we do all this? We're not just doing it for the sake of it. There is a key element to why we do this. So we touch on that in quite a lot of detail, to be honest. But the second half of the session is all about the Panasonic side of things. How do you run the unit? How do you commission the unit? And then we also do assisted commissioning support as well. Again, if it's new to the installer or whether it's not new, it just offers that support. It could be a different setup, but they've not done before as well. So we can offer that support on site through our service partner scheme, sales team, in-house design team as well, to give that installer confidence that the unit's commissioned suited for the application as well. So it's a really key part of what Panasonic offers in terms of commissioning and user training as well. Again, Nathan, you'll find in the new build sector, it's ramping up and there's a lot of new installers coming into this game. So they know it already in case they've done it years ago in terms of designing systems, but it's a long time since they've had to do it. So that's key why we do the design side, but then the commissioning side as well, if it's a new unit they've not worked on before, or they're new to heat pumps. So what I'm trying to say, that backup support service is really, really key from start to finish.
Yeah, no, I do totally agree on that. And I know other Rangers put one comments into the chat, and I do totally agree. So on the product range we've got, do we have any unique design features that simplify retrofitting existing buildings? I know, especially from my side, when we do start looking at UI 290 and your higher flow temperatures going round, it means we don't need to start changing pipe work out, radiator sound. But Paul, James, you have any points you will be able to throw at it?
Don't know if you want to start, Paul.
The good one is there, you said about the accredited installers as well. You are helping to build that trust in the transition. So with James saying about the training there, it all connects. Everything connects really with the with the customer, the client, the end user, the accredited installers. Everything's connected. So as the installers go and do that project for their client, we've got the assurance that right from the word go, we've had pre-sales support, field support, any technical support over the phone, site visit, assist commissions, things like that. So the accredited installer route is the way, really. And like you say, that 7-year warranty, it really is a peace of mind for the customer, because it is an investment what they've made into their building. So they've put that highly efficient system in. They've spent pounds and pence. So now they've got that all-important peace of mind that an accredited installer's fitted it. We've had manufacturer support from the get-go. We've got continuity of after-sales support. And then when you think then it's that warranty is 7 years, great, fantastic, really is. again, it's something that just needs applauding, really. Great service delivery.
Yeah, I think to add to that, in terms of combining the two questions that have just come up in terms of uniqueness and managing budget versus long-term investment. Just one example that's come to mind, I mentioned the Pro Club earlier. We've also got an Aquaria design tool on there, which is really from start to finish. And what's that? It also compares versus if you've got a gas boiler or an oil boiler or whatever application you've currently got. Now, it's only as good as the information you put in it. So pence per kilowatt on that system, etc. But what that will do, once you put the information in on what size of building you've got, what U values you've got on the property, it'll give you an estimation basically compared to those other applications, and that'll give you judgment on CO2 savings, cost savings on a yearly basis. So that'll help manage the budget. If you're looking at this application over so many years, you can put that into insight as well. And then also with the big M as well, compared to a bigger hydronic system, tend to look at price there as well. And then in terms of install and support, you've got support. So I think combining all those elements with the two questions that pop up there, I think that's a really, really good tool. And then that's built into our sales team and our spec team as well to deliver that as well for you. So we've got the tools and the experience to support you on that.
Yeah, so that I do totally agree as well. It's not just about, yes, we've got all these different grants in the market and all these kind of bits, but it also comes down to actually, it comes back to that collaboration. Let's sit down, let's get everyone in one room and see what we can do. So I know from what you've got on there, so how can building owners and consultants strike a balance between sustainability targets and budget constraints? And I think that's where the dialogue needs to start opening. I know we had a very similar conversation not too long ago, and I know me and James speak about it quite a lot. It's because there is so many different incentives that are going around. Scotland, for example, if you're in your rural area, you're getting an additional £1,500. You get 0% on VAT for the installation, all these kind of bits, and they start adding up and adding up. But I think the problem is that it's not very well publicised or marketed what we can get. So from that side of it, I think it's coming back to that collaboration going, I've got this project, I need to meet this requirement, and this is the budget I have. I think that's where we all need to sit down and go, in actual fact, okay, this is what we need to do. Let's see how we can all help support that. So maybe from that side of it, I would say, please do reach out, especially myself, James, anyone in James's team, where we can go around and actually see where we can help. And yeah, if it's from that product, seeing a slightly different product range, or about helping to get some grants over the line, I think that's what's needed. I know we have slightly moved on. I'm conscious of time a little bit as well.
Can't forget training, unfortunately.
Yeah, 100%. James, I think I'll just throw straight back over to you on these two slides, because it's just bringing training back in, and that's something you lead a lot from your guys with the guys on the road.
Yeah, thanks, David. I know we've touched on the day course that we offer. That can progress online with e-learning as well. If it's just simple factors you want to learn about the product. One thing we're doing as well, we're working with a lot of colleges. Obviously, it's out there, we know about it, but we've got lots of young apprentices looking to get into it as well and add it on to the general plumbing and heating courses that they're doing as well. So future-proofing the skill base is very important. It's something we take a lot of responsibility for and invested in a lot. So working with these colleges, and that's expanding, that's all the way up in Scotland, etc. And then combining it with the different opportunities and grants that you've got as well. Spoke about e-learning, the latest refrigerants control system practices. We hold a lot of webinars online. Dates are sent out. So if you remember, if you've signed up to the Pro Club and you're a member with us, you'll get these links, these opportunities where you can, in your own time, listen to these webinars, learn about new controls like we're doing today, learn about the latest refrigerants on offer within the industry and system design practices. And then continuous learning as well. We encourage, the products are developing with Panasonic and other manufacturers as well. They're getting better and better, which is incredible. They're already incredible as they are, but they're improving. But so it's important that you keep up to date with the different products, the different applications that can be used to meet the government grants potentially, or again budgets, etc., and what you're trying to achieve efficiency wise as well. So career progression kind of links into colleges, which we discussed as well. So there's opportunities out there for not just the young guys out there, people wanting to get into this now, it doesn't matter if you whatever age you are, if you wanted to get into this business, it's a great opportunity to learn and also develop your own business, which Paul will tell you about in great detail as well. Not jumping on your age there, Paul. I'm not making sure.
So you mean old boys like me?
That's it, mate. But yeah, and then Paul's touched on professional confidence on site as well. So whether that's through us or our service partners as well, we want to hold your hand through this process if it's new. But again, as the products develop, there's all little new insights as well. So, and then the technical competence within the team is incredible. The guys are just absolute wizards. It amazes me. So, yeah, I hope I've covered all those points / questions on there. But yeah, if there's anything anyone wants to add.
No, I suppose I do totally agree with what you said. I know another one that we are starting to do more and more, of course, is CPDs. So CPDs, of course, we've got the courses on the Pro Club that you can get without to. But in actual fact, if you just want us to come to your office and just go, actually, let's go through heat networks, let's go through small commercial, let's focus on end generation in a bit more detail. Same again, please do reach out to us. We never charge anything from this. How we treat it as a company is we like to make partners. We're not here just to sell units. We like to make hire partners and help educate the actual market itself. So yeah, please do reach out.
Touching on how the question of how government policy has influenced the pace of decarbonisation, and particularly in the light commercial sector, I think that sort of feeds into, like you say, it's all connected, but through training as well is, without the sort of need for, without the right government incentives there, without the sort of mass training provision, it is currently down to manufacturers to lead the charge. Would you agree?
I know from my side, 100%, it's government have all these targets that they do keep throwing out and everyone starts needing to meet to, but from my side of it in New Bell, I look at Future Home Standard. Future Home Standard was meant to come out technically half last year, this year, and now it's going to be meant to be autumn. It's not going to be autumn. Theoretically, it probably will be early next year now. And there's just so many delays and so many uncertainties. And even with the modelling tools that they are bringing out, there are either delays or it keeps going to consultations. There's no real direction. So it's just leaving everyone just standing there going, what should we do? How should we work? So I do totally agree. I think it's not just falling on ourselves, but even our competitors in the market. We know this is the direction that we need to be going into. We know this is where the government wants us to go to, but this is what we believe you should be doing because there's not really any much guidance out there to fully follow yet. James, do you agree from that?
Yeah, I mean, if you mentioned the slide just on the Panasonic, Nathan, trying to achieve 1% of global emissions, the government target of 600,000 units, well, who's going to fit all those? So if we're not training these people or encouraging or opening the door for this opportunity for installers, different generations to fit these units and get involved, then we're kind of not doing our bit as well to achieve the targets that we all want to achieve. So I think, it's key we play our part, develop training constantly, make it visible, different locations as well, up and down the country, which we're trying to. So I agree on that, Nathan. Yeah.
Awesome. Paul, what is it from your side?
Sorry, I was just going to add there from the government, if they like we've got the bus now for residential and small commercial, when we're looking at a larger application, we need to be clear on what funding is available from the government. So we need the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero to sort of say, look, guys, this is what you can definitely have, and there's no kind of grey area over it. It needs to be clear from the government. If you've got a building that is justified as what we call a large commercial project, then that funding is available to you. If it's a small one up to 45 kilowatts, you still fall in the bus sort of realms. Like you added yourself, Nathan, there's extra if you're in rural Scotland, an extra £1,500 through I think it's the Energy Saving Trust. But James, you've really hit it on the head there, where you said about the target of 600,000 and the skill shortage right across the UK. The government's really got to step up and put that funding in and make that available to, one, train people, and two, support larger buildings. If commercial buildings are 30% of our emissions approximately, then we really need to get the skills, get the funding for the skills, right across the mainland, and and yeah, let's get more funding to the larger commercial applications. So so yeah, hopefully they'll do something on that.
Yeah, and that's what we can do. We can just keep pushing government to keep trying to release more stuff, and actually just trying to get the grants that are already out there actually more known, because yes, it's good doing them, but it's not good hiding them either.
Absolutely, and I think it needs to be simplified, especially for smaller businesses who might not have, the capability to manage sort of complex commissioning paperwork and planning applications, etc. To just making it as easy as possible and signposting those resources. We can't force people to take advantage of them, but I think letting them know and signposting to the right resources is half the work.
Yeah. So
another good one there on that is the they weren't pointing out. So at one example, you had one example of a customer that said they were doing a new build, and they said we're not entitled to the grant because it's oil. And they even said to me that the clue is in the title, Paul. I said boiler upgrade scheme, right? And he said, yeah, we're not entitled to it because it's a new build. Well, self build, so they are entitled to it, but they didn't know that. So again, like Nathan's pointed out, the government really do need to expose that, or make clear that you are entitled to this funding, and maybe we can start getting more, highly efficient systems into people's houses and get fossil fuels out and commercial buildings. So
I think it's an interesting sort of, obviously the preconception of the boiler upgrade scheme that is specifically for residential, specifically for new build, and the sort of that misinformation. But I think it raises an important point of what lessons are we learning from our successes and failures in the residential market as well, and even from the design stage, like integrating those sort of unique features that we almost haven't paid as much attention to, like the noise, because that was a major barrier to adoption in the residential sector, and is supposedly less of a consideration in some commercial projects, but also in densely populated urban areas, it is still a massive consideration. It's sort of understanding what is stopping people exploring these solutions, and cost being a big one as well. But I think it's that sort of technical support which is so important.
I think the brand does exceptionally well. In supporting the client or the installer right from the get-go, right into the journey of after sales. But I think the government could help the manufacturers. Nathan sort of raised the point that the government needs to do more. I mean, perhaps they should come out on site visits, themselves, and see the performance of these systems, and actually see what's gone into making that happen. And get a clearer picture themselves, because sat in Whitehall, isn't helping. They need to come out on site and see the challenges we face. We've got a critical skill shortage, and we've also got not so much clarity on what funding's available. So there's two big challenges there for the government straight away. So the brand's doing exceptionally well day by day, and each day striving to do better and deliver better. But help from the government is probably a key factor in decarbonising commercial buildings, and we need to see more from them.
Absolutely. I think there's those light commercial applications that have sort of been overlooked, as we've said. It's not been a major part of the conversation, but it's also it presents an obvious opportunity to provide, to create these case studies and share them with industry, and sort of foster that collaboration, but also understanding of what is possible.
Absolutely.
So we had a couple of more questions that we've sort of eaten into our Q&A time. So do get in touch with us if you have any more sort of discussion points that you'd like to. But we had an interesting question from Lawrence on Paul's National War Museum case study regarding the COPs, whether they are theoretical, and how whether pipework insulation was used on the project. Was it UV rated, covered, and how can we sort of minimise heat losses in those projects as well?
Yeah, I mean, all the pipe work at the Wool Museum was it was all lagged in its entirety by the installation company. They'd done an absolutely fantastic job. You know, you probably think it was snug as a bug in a rug. That's how I'd put it. It was, you know, it was all done to industry standards anyway. I'd probably say they surpassed it with the insulation they used, but it's that UV resistant black, you know, the like the black vinyl finish.
Yeah.
It's not a vinyl, but it's very similar looking in appearance. So they did a great job, absolute great job. So heat loss, you know, the primaries all the way were, you know, insulated in their entirety right to the plant room. So there was no exposed pipework anywhere. They've done a really showcase installation. The installers, fabulous. We hope that they'll do many more. You know, they did a great job. So, you know, and then in the plant room, you go in there, and again everything was sort of insulated, Lawrence. So hope that answers your question. There was minimal heat loss there.
Yeah.
Is it Nathan, for every degree that's lost, it's roughly 2% on your efficiency? Is that?
Yeah, to be fair, yeah, it's about that, yeah. 1 to 2 degree depending on it. And it's strange enough, Dan's put another question in, I know, straight after. And it's exactly right. And another common thing we see out in the field is, yes, it's great putting these grants in, but what we see is a decline in installation quality. And James, I know we get it a lot. We see in the press, our heat pumps don't work, they don't do this, they don't do that. And that's purely because they've been putting the wrong installations. But then it's also getting down to the bad retrofits. So I think even on that one, yeah, I do totally agree. It's one thing that also needs to be, let's say, probably regulated a little bit more with the boiler upgrade scheme, rather than just throwing the £7,500 just putting a heat pump in. And they are doing it. You now have to have I think it's the COP for the year. It needs to be fully inspected to make sure you're getting the energy requirement out of that. But I think that also needs another look into, and it all really ties together. Is installation is key, commissioning is key. If it's not done right, it's just going to affect either it's just going to affect the end user, and also both the manufacturer from our side of it, because it's our name on the box, but then also if the software installers, you name it, that's also working on that project, it can also affect them. So yeah, I think that's a key one.
I like the live efficiency on the controller as well. When you've got the system running, you can go into the Panasonic controller and see the live efficiency. So as that system's operating, you know, if it's in, you know, heating mode, you're actually getting a live reading of your COP. But in that menu, you can look at your generated kilowatt hours. You can look at so whether that be over a day, a week, a month, a year, you can see your consumed kilowatt hour consumption. And you can also see what the unit's generated in kilowatt hours. So, you know, if you didn't just want to go by the COP figure at the bottom of the menu, you could just see, well, okay, you know, let's do the calculation ourselves and see how it equates. Because whenever that unit's operating, it's recording. I just call it like a black box. Whenever it's working, it's recording. So, and it'll, you know, whether it's in domestic hot water or heating, doesn't matter. It's recording. So, for a person that's maybe sort of thinking primarily on efficiencies, I love that menu. I really do. It's one of my go-tos whenever I visit a site. You know, it gives me a clearer picture of how that unit's running. I can also go into the compressor and see how many hours it's been running and how many on-offs. And I can equate from that, has it been cycling on and off too many times, or is it what we expect? So for efficiency, I really do love how an end user can, or an installer can check how efficient their system is. It really is quite something.
I think if you think back to the first slide, Nathan, that we've been doing heat pumps since 1973, so they do work, so that can slash that myth. But then it also enhances the questions we've had today in terms of install, design. You know, if there's slush in the pipes on a new build, it's going to get blocked. If you put slush in your car engine, it's not going to work. So it's little things, little details, and why we encourage training, commissioning, maintenance support, because heat pumps do work. It's just just different, and we've got to support that side of it.
I think it's a shame because as Lawrence sort of points towards, there's heat pumps have gained a bad name through especially sort of misinterpreted efficiency statistics as well. But obviously, the failed home installation schemes, is it 80% of Eco4 installations have either not been done properly or not been done with the right sort of information in mind. Add to that, the shortage of skilled people driving down standards. There has been a sort of, poor installations have unfortunately given the sort of poisoned the well a bit. But I think where the commercial sector can really come in is demonstrating that, because there's almost more information available through, the integration, the controls, and those panels that installers need to sort of have all of the information to be able to share those savings as well. But I would say, would you say that the standards are higher in like commercial applications than residential applications as well, in terms of efficiency?
What's that?
Touch on that. Go on. Yeah, I'll leave that with you, Nathan. Yeah.
As I say, from my side, I think when you do start moving over to more like commercial and the commercial sector, they've been working with these systems for a longer time than they have in the residential world. So naturally, I would expect to see a better quality of an install. Whereas right now, for example, in the residential world, we are just seeing people throw these units in who, yes, they know gas boilers and they're very good at throwing the gas boilers in, but the heat pumps do need that little bit of care. We need to make sure all that's air, stats, and all them kind of bits. So I think personally, I would expect to see a commercial install to be at a higher quality than a residential install. James, what would you say from your side on that?
Yeah, I agree. Just from the perspective of maybe the contractor involved, they've got their F-gas, they've been in it a longer time, they've been working on fridge systems maybe, Paul, would you say? So that background of aircon, etc. kind of ties in, even though it's a water system. I know that sounds daft, but that experience of dealing with refrigerants and low temperatures and air design and room design kind of plays a big part in it, so it can play that quality. I think.
But we deliver schematics as well, though, don't we? When we on the HVACR cloud, Nathan, and James, when we're doing a system design on Pro Club, you've got the schematics there for for the end installers to follow as well. But for what Ella was saying there about the schemes, the government schemes like Eco4, personally, I'd want to see people ask for assist commissions on their first hit. Whether, before they even unpack a heat pump on these big developments, maybe that's a good starter, assist, site assist. But then that focus on ongoing training as well. So rather than, throw it in, it kind of gets done the way we want it and it's guided step by step initially. Perhaps that's something that would help. Who knows? We don't always have the right answers or the right approach, but it's just a suggestion. Maybe for these larger contracts, like you say, where thousands of homes are getting, changed over from fossil to renewable, maybe a talk through, an assisted site visit, maybe that's the way forward. But then obviously you'd need more manpower to do all the projects across the country. Well, across the UK.
I think from the homeowner side as well, just to switch it from installer to homeowner, it's something we do as well. Site visits, homeowner visits, that sort of thing. Got a big demo van as well, which gets about, doesn't it, Nathan? But
it does.
It's got some miles.
I've seen it, yeah.
It's got working kit in there, but it's, for example, social housing where they've got a heat pump, they might not have asked for it, but it scares them. What's this system? How do I use it? And when you say just leave it, it's commissioned to how it needs to do, it'll almost run itself. And that light's on, it scares people in terms of thinking that's costing money. So it's that education that it's modulating, it's working to its temperatures, it's working to its efficiencies. I think we play a key role in that, but that's something else that can be developed for homeowners as well, because it might be people off in the retrofit as well that not understanding how the system works.
I think that raises an important sort of point on user behaviour, though, because obviously you might get sort of more engagement with the commissioning party, with it, whether that be building owners, building managers, especially facilities managers as well. But I suppose, how do you approach creating that engagement with the system post installation, to ensure that like commercial applications can see those benefits sort of long term?
Panasonic have got a YouTube channel where they've got like how-tos as well, with settings and how to get the best out of the system. So, how to chase a set point for the hot water. Like James pointed out, you may have somebody, who's moved into a property, might be social housing, and they've not come across a heat pump before. But there are, in the handover pack, if you highlighted that there are helpful tips and tricks videos that can show you how to as well, because you can't do a physical handover visit for everybody in that kind of scenario that James has mentioned with social housing. But you could certainly maybe highlight that here's where you could get more information online.
Yeah.
Maybe that could help. But for a commercial application, we kind of got to look at things maybe with a different approach. I think if it's the external management of that building, it might not be the actual building owner who's managing the heating or the hot water solution in that building. So we need to engage with, the caretakers or the management company, and maybe do a handover, like we would do with a homeowner. We do a handover, when we've commissioned it, show them how to use the controls, etc. Maybe with a commercial application, we need to, maybe engage with those that manage it rather than the actual owner.
Yeah, I would agree. I think bringing maybe every stakeholder on board to understand the system, ideally from the point of installation, but sometimes, as you say, that's not realistic, especially in sort of PFI contracts where buildings have been leased with that solution already installed. It's about sort of understanding and creating that continuity, I think. But that can often be difficult, I suppose, in mixed use spaces, offices, where, there might not even be sort of 24-hour, engagement with that building.
I think that's
there could be shift patterns in there. Yeah.
I think that's where our e-learning modules and handover and marketing tools come into play, because, like you said, in student apartments, always changing hands, who's living there, understanding the system and things. So
they're basically empty for half the year as well. Forecasting those, I suppose, understanding. Do you think it's important to sort of understand the occupancy patterns and different sort of requirements of a building, I suppose, throughout the entire year as well?
Yeah, I think, to be fair, that's the key one. I think especially when you do so much research and studies on units, it tends to be one set. Let's say in residence, tends to be one set. Family and commercial, it still tends to be one set point that everything's modelled on. But everyone uses these systems differently, and they are constantly looked at. One thing we do a lot of testing on our units, but we also like to push the testing a little bit. So rather than just having I'm going to use the house, for example. So let's say 2 parents, 2 children living in that house. Well, what about if it's not that? What about if you've got 3 adults in there, 1 child, less than that, more than that, so on and so forth? And we need to realise how people are actually fully using our units.
Yeah.
Biggest example I can give. So what we've got in Japan. So in Japan, we've actually got a Panasonic city, and it's a city that has been built by Panasonic, where we've got all these different properties on there. And we do build loads of different, it's where we test our units really. So if we're going to put a heat pump on there, we've got hydrogen fuel cells on there at the minute, so on and so forth. But we need real world testing data, and that's what we are now doing in Europe. We're doing something similar with the European market here. But I think that's the key one. You can't just make one product for one type of person or one type of application. You need to make sure it does meet every single way that product can be used. So I think it is doing a lot of it from that side.
I think that's where sort of massive manufacturers like Panasonic can create that cultural engagement and sort of understand, while heat pumps are not new to the UK, they are sort of, as James mentioned, this scary new technology that we didn't necessarily, understand or are on board with, that boilers are just that, familiarity in residential settings. But heat pumps are, they require a different level of engagement and a different level of understanding. And I think, it's important to sort of manage people's expectations in that sense, so they know,
It's exactly that. It's giving real world data rather than data that looks good on a piece of paper.
I suppose that's
change scares people.
It does. Change is scary, but I think it's also inevitable. I think, as we talk about net zero targets, it's sort of, we talk about getting towards 2050, but we're sort of almost making it up as we go along and seeing what works. And it's going to be a case of trial and error. but the technology is where we can sort of prove the changes are being made and sustained as well.
Yeah, years ago, we had the story with, I'll throw a little story in, it's only a tiny one. I won't keep the credits rolling. Many, many years ago, I remember the estate where I grew up, it was a sprawling estate, humongous. And there were council vans. I came home on leave, and the council vans were taking out all of the immersion heaters and the coal fires. And the conversation on the estate was, don't let them take away your immersion heater. Don't let them give you that combi boiler. Don't have a combi boiler, whatever you do. Stay with your immersion. You'll know where you're at with it. But the narrative's the same, but the technology's different.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying, me combi, I know where I'm at. 20 meters, I know where I'm at. Don't let them take your combi away. Don't let them take that heat pump, that M series, up to 75 degrees flow temperature or water outlet temperature, even when it's minus 15 outside. R290, for those that are conscious about lowering the carbon footprint, we've got a GWP of less than 3. It doesn't get any better. We've got TCAP. Well, it does, because we've got TCAP technology all rolled into one unit. So if we're going to decarbonise a building, we've got the means to do it. We've got this amazing brand that has this great after sales, great pre-sales, great tech support. So we've got to just encourage these building owners to say, right, let's go down a Panasonic Big M route. I need 90 kilowatts. I'll have 3 of those 30s, please. Thank you very much indeed. We'll talk through with the installer, or, if it's my own project, I'll turn to James and Nathan and say, right, guys, it's go time. But, essentially it's about making sure that confidence is there for that client, for that building owner, that we're going to deliver right from the word go. Logistics, planning, site visits, where we're putting the cables, where you're putting the pipes, where's the equipment going, where's your condensation drainage. And if there are any sort of, other technical questions, we've always got MCS we can turn to and pick up the phone and say, just do us a favour, let me run this question by it and just give us a second opinion. So again, it's just, and then the technical team, that's the unsung heroes at Panasonic, sat in the background there working away. They're there at the end of the phone if anyone has got any other technical questions. And that goes on into after sales. So the customer really can trust in Panasonic. That's no problem. They got service partners right across the UK mainland, Ella. So even if you live Shetlands, Highlands and Islands, somebody can come and take care of you. That's no problem. So I think it's about getting that confidence to commercial building owners, wherever you may be, to, have the belief that this technology will work, even when, it's absolutely Baltic out there. I think I don't know whether we've mentioned, but that M series can deliver reliable heat even when it's as cold as minus 28 outside. So, do we have any concerns that it won't perform? No. Do we know it's going to perform efficiently? Yes. So I don't know why people stand off on heat pumps. I really don't. But what we do know is we've all got to roll our sleeves up and, get this transition done. I mean, if we're going to bring people together, now is really a time to roll our sleeves up and let's get cracking. Let's get the commercial building owners picking up the phone and we want a quote, we need somebody out. Do it now. Do it now. Now's the time. Now's the time. Come on, everybody.
Perfectly
Come on
to
now.
time.
Let's do it. You've got a great brand. There's no concerns. None whatsoever. I'm saying nothing now, sorry.
No, it's great.
I've gone already.
No, I think that's a great point to leave it at. Is that the support is there when people need it. It's just about encouraging people to reach out as well.
Yeah. They really have got a great support team. I will say that I have had engagement with a lot of, people that know me. I've had a lot of engagement with different brands. Panasonic really excel. I haven't, in all honesty, seen anyone do as good just yet. And I mean that on every level. I don't just mean somebody's good at pre-sales and, I'm going right from the get-go through your pre-sales right to your after-sales. I don't believe I've seen anybody impress me as much as Panasonic do. So, I hope that helps any viewers maybe wondering what route to go. You know, so
absolutely. And James and Nathan are, you know, ideally available to anyone who has any questions on what we've covered today. But also the resources are out there. Just have a look on the website and reach out, make that call if you need to. And we should probably leave it there because we are just over time. But I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And thank you to all our incredible speakers for really engaging with this topic. And hopefully it inspires confidence in the building owners who are considering this change, but also in everyone who's under pressure to decarbonise wherever they are.
Thanks for having us. Thank you. Cheers, Ella.
Thank you all.
Thanks, James.
Take care. And the
thanks
recording will be
watching.
available shortly. So we'll make that available on our website. Thanks all, and take care and have a lovely day.
Okay.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me.